Welcome back, fellow babies, to Pachter Factor 102. Can't believe it, 102. 100 seemed like so long ago, maybe 20 minutes ago.
I can't believe I've been with you for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, we have not changed our clothes. We're just like the guys at E3. We figure we'll get free T-shirts.
It really does smell like a Square Enix press conference right now.
So welcome back. Glad you guys could join us. Hope you're watching us on SIFTD.net and that you are patrons on Patreon. If you are, Shane thanks you. I thank you. I don't benefit from this other than I can afford to make my boat payments because Shane keeps my boat fully occupied. If you're watching on YouTube for free, that's cool as well. All we ask in exchange is you follow SIFTD on Twitter at SIFTD, you follow at Annoyed Gamer, and you follow at Michael Pachter. That's 3 follows. We won't overwhelm you. I tweet like once or twice a day at most.
I tweet in the morning when I'm on my walk.
So, not on the. You don't Twitter on the shitter?
No Twitter. No more shitter. I mean, Trump made that passe.
So our first question from SIFTD from Zet Saber. Video games are under attack again over violence. I'm curious on your perspective on this topic. Are there any games you would not allow your children to play?
I think anybody who's followed Annoyed Gamer over the years, or watched the show, or just even follow me on Twitter, knows where I stand. Video games don't kill people. Idiots with guns, knives, cars, bombs, they kill people. There is no study on planet Earth that has proven that violent video games incite violence in people. And we do live in times where the media is very violent. But in so many other countries around the world, excluding America, the violence isn't an issue. And they play the same games. They actually have perhaps slightly more lax censorship laws in those particular countries. They actually have perhaps stricter laws in that you can't get into the equivalent of an R-rated movie outside the US if you're underage just because you've got a parent with you. You have to actually be of age, which is something that's quite sensible. The issue is that in America it's too easy to get a gun. Now I understand a lot of people like their guns, they use them for sport or for hunting. I actually think that if you're going to hunt anything, you basically should have the same materials that whatever you're hunting has. So whether it's a pair of antlers or a hoof or sharp teeth, that's it. But I also, I have a gun permit. I have a handgun permit in California. I took the test to see what it's like. I spent time in the British Royal Navy. I passed my marksmanship training. I was top of my class in my security training. So I've gone through all that stuff. I know how to strip down a gun, put it together and fire it. A lot of people perhaps don't know this about me. But I also know what it's like to fire a gun. I also know that video games, firing a gun in a game is totally different to firing a gun in real life. And I also think that we shouldn't let people get access to guns when they are perhaps mentally unhinged or at risk. So I don't think violent video games are the problem. I think parenting comes into it. If you have a child of a certain age, you don't expose them to Fallout 3's big mess mode, where heads go everywhere or whatever. You don't let them play Grand Theft Auto if they're a 10-year-old, or Gears of War or whatever. You are smart and you use parental controls. I also figure you talk to your child about this stuff. So the problem with violent video games is that it's not a problem. The problem is with the culture that allows people who should be getting help for mental issues, not let them get guns, not let them get knives, not let them drive trucks into things, and just basically be smarter as a society. And that's where I stand on that.
So I'll say the same thing differently, but we're saying the same thing. I don't know that we could ever prove that violent games or violent media, movies or books or anything, television, causes anybody to behave in a certain manner. I think that it's likely that violence-prone individuals probably enjoy violent media just as much as non-violent prone individuals.
They also enjoy the Bible.
Well, and the truth is that there's something going on where a lot of these shooters, not all, are young men. So this Nicholas Cruz guy was a young man. The Sandy Hook shooter was a young man. The Virginia Tech shooter was a young man. So it seems pretty common. But the Las Vegas shooter was a 64-year-old guy who my guess is didn't play games. I don't know, but we haven't heard anything about it. So you know, I think that if you were to look at the population of men in that, you know, 18 to 20-year-old range of all these, you know, the Sandy Hook and Parkland and Virginia Tech shooters, what are the odds that an 18 to 20-year-old guy plays video games? And the answer is super high. Because, you know, I would say if you're 18 to 20-year-old and you're a man and you don't play games, there's something wrong with you. You know, 80% at least of 18 to 20-year-old guys in the U.S. play games. So you're going to always find a link.
Yeah, there's people who play games. Yeah, it's a huge part of culture in general now. But I think that one of the shooters, and it might have been one of the Sandy Hook ones, played Dance Dance Revolution.
So that was the funny one was that. So the president of the NRA, the last time I remember, I actually looked this up recently. The last time that I could find that he actually called out video games as responsible for violence was right after Sandy Hook, and he flat out said this shooter was clearly influenced by games like Mortal Kombat, you know, count all the guns in Mortal Kombat, and Grand Theft Auto, which, you know, as of 2012, there wasn't, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out in 13, Grand Theft Auto 4 came out in 08, so, you know, it was a 4-year-old game at the time. And then when they did check out the guy's home and they found his Xbox or PlayStation, it must have been PlayStation, they found that he had a Dance Dance Revolution disc in the tray, and the PlayStation monitors how many hours you spend, and they checked, and 60% of his gameplay was Dance Dance Revolution. Now I'm going to draw that link. Dance Dance Revolution leads to school gun violence. We need to outlaw Dance Dance Revolution. No, you realize how stupid that is. And so the point is that you just have bad people who want to kill, and they're going to get guns and they're going to do it. We can argue about whether access to guns creates violence. I can tell you, if all guns were outlawed, which we can't do in the U.S. because of the Second Amendment, and you made it harder to get a gun, then there would be fewer gun violence. I mean, there would be fewer incidents of gun violence. I think the most interesting thing is that this clown who was sending bombs in Austin, I believe he killed 2 or 3 people, 3 people maybe, in 3 weeks of sending bombs. You know what? That's because we have appropriate control over bombs. They're hard to get. And if you buy, I think it's 75 pounds of fertilizer or something like that, which bombs are made out of, you get reported to the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agencies. So it's like we monitor bombs and we monitor bomb making, and what happens? 3 people die, which is not good. I want 0 people to die, but 3 people die in 3 weeks, as opposed to 17 people died in 5 minutes because somebody got a rifle.
Somebody tried to light his shoe on fire on a plane.
Yeah, Richard, whatever his name was.
Yeah, the Richard Reed or Roper or whatever his name was. No, Roper's the...
Richard Reed, yeah.
Yeah, but he tries to set his shoes on fire because there's a bomb in them. Now we take our shoes off at the airport.
Yes.
Fertilizer is now heavily monitored.
Was that Timothy, whatever,
Timothy
Oklahoma
McVeigh.
City? Yeah, McVeigh.
Delta killed somebody's dog by putting it in an overhead compartment. United, maybe Delta, both shitty airlines. But then the next day, within 24 hours, one of the Kennedys said that he's going to propose that he makes it illegal.
Oh, by the way, that was not one of the Kennedys. That's the senator from Louisiana whose name just happens to be John Kennedy.
Well, he is a Kennedy.
But he's not related. He's not
a Kennedy, but he's a Kennedy.
Yes, he's not related.
He may be Freddie Kennedy.
Yes, he's Freddie, their poor cousin. Yes.
Yeah. My point being that more people have died in America from gun deaths by shot by other Americans than have been killed overseas in service. That's it's like 2,000 or 3,000 versus 12,000.
Certainly more than dogs who died in an overhead bin in an airplane.
It's just ridiculous. And look, I'm not saying pull all the guns off the streets. I am not saying make it illegal to get a gun, but make sure there's a national database. Make sure that if you are a felon, you don't get a gun. If you've committed a violent act, you don't get a gun. And if you have, you're
crazy.
Yeah, and let's have some mental health support structures in place, because thanks to Reagan and his Reaganomics of cutting all the mental health support in California in the 70s, which he then took national when he took over as president, there is no safety net in this country, whereas other countries do have socialist healthcare and they have mental health support. And you know how difficult it is to get a gun in Japan?
pretty hard.
You have to get tested every year.
You know how many gun deaths there were in Japan last year?
11?
One.
Oh, there was only one? All right. Because I know basically at one point they had 11 and that was
Not
like a huge
suicide,
outcry.
but I mean, yeah.
I mean, Australia banned guns, and guess what? They've had no rampages. Britain, we had Hungerford, which, was a terrible, gun rampage. But since then, guns are hard to get. We don't have gun rampages. And people will say, well, yes, people stab people now. Well, yes, they stab people, but you know what? I'd be much happier trying to take out a guy with a knife, especially if there are lots of other people around me.
A couple weeks ago.
If there are people around me, because we can all overpower it. And yeah, I'll take a cut over a bullet wound in my skull.
Well, and the cop that took that guy down got stabbed, might have died, I don't remember, but in London. But it was like, how many people are going to die in a knife attack? One
evil
or two.
People are going to be
right,
evil.
Right.
They're going to find ways to hurt you. They're going to use a bus. They're going to use a plane. They're going to use a knife. They're going to use a car. They're going to use a boat. But the harder it is, that we make it to, so they don't get guns or weapons of death, the better we'll all be.
Let's move on. Our next question from SIFTD from Kevin. Good question, Kevin. How big of a deal is it that Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and that is 4 sticks, will be released in October instead of November? Were you surprised that Activision moved its release date after all these years due to Red Dead Redemption 2? Let's start from the end. It's not because of Red Dead Redemption 2. I know that's what the gaming press said, because you guys only know of Call of Duty and Rockstar games. They moved it to October 12th because they want to kick Battlefield's butt. They want to kick Battlefield. They want to crush it. They don't want anybody to buy Battlefield before they buy Call of Duty. They want you to have 2 weeks of Call of Duty before you get a chance to buy Battlefield. They want to destroy Battlefield. Battlefield is an existential threat to Call of Duty. If Battlefield starts coming out every year, Call of Duty's got a competitor. And before you laugh and say, well, that can't happen because Battlefield takes at least 2 years to develop. Well, why do you think that EA bought Respawn? Does anybody know who Vince Zampella is? Oh, the creator of Call of Duty. You think Vince doesn't want to kick Activision's ass? Yes, he does. I will make a bet that by 2021, we have a Respawn game called Battlefield. That Respawn becomes the other studio, that they have every other year from Respawn, every other year from DICE. And if that happens, Call of Duty's in a world of hurt, because if the Battlefield games from Vince are as good as the Titanfall games and the Call of Duty games from Vince, Activision's got a problem. So Vince is really good, and yeah, Vince, I actually do want to work for your studio because you're going to fucking kick everybody's ass, and I want to be there when you do it. And I'm about to retire, so I need somebody to pay me. But yeah, I think that's the thing. So I think they moved in front of Battlefield, not in front of Red Dead. Yes, of course, they're coming out 2 weeks in front of Red Dead. You guys raise your hand. How many of you are only going to buy one of Red Dead or Call of Duty, and you always buy Call of Duty, but this year you're not because you're buying Red Dead? Okay, I see all 4 of you holding your hands up. Who cares? Like, you're going to buy Red Dead. You're either also going to buy Call of Duty, or you never were going to buy Call of Duty. There's not that much overlap. Battlefield, Call of Duty, huge overlap. Similar games. Battlefield is very likely going to be a World War II game. Black Ops obviously is different, but no, I am very confident Activision moved that launch date to just kick Battlefield's butt.
Let me just say I agree with him. I think that they are going all out to try and destroy Battlefield. I think EA have a great person in Vince creating, probably a fantastic Battlefield game. I just don't have faith in EA's marketing department after the botched job they did on Titanfall 2. And the issues that plagued Battlefront last year. I think people at EA and the higher echelons wouldn't know their assholes from their elbows if you drew them a map, and they need to be told what the fuck's going on and smarten up their game. I hope Vince has power of creative control over his marketing, because they really need it. And can I also say, from a totally puerile and juvenistic perspective, when Activision starts selling new characters for this new Call of Duty game, will we call them Call of Duty foreskins?
Oh boy! Oh, I love it.
So there you go, Call of Duty foreskins. You heard it here first.
Okay, I like that. Call of Duty foreskins.
Followed by tip-off mode.
I'm going to stick with that. Call of Duty foreskins.
Call of Duty 4 uncut.
Our next question from Patreon. There actually is a place on Patreon to ask questions. SIFTD.
Yeah,
I love that.
Questions all over the place.
I love that. From Julio Rodriguez. Julio, where do I see the industry 100 episodes from now? God, how long has this been? Like 2 years. So 2 years from now. With free-to-play becoming a frequent success story, will the console landscape adopt a similar model, or will the tradition of $60 games being sold at retail stores still be a thing? Is it inevitable that Amazon and Apple enter the space? 2 years is a little tight, but certainly in 3 or 4, Amazon and Apple are there. As far as free-to-play becoming the way to go, the real problem with going free-to-play is if you start ground up, you can go free-to-play. If you have a franchise that exists that people are used to spending $60 for, so I'll say FIFA, it's really hard to go FIFA all free all the time. Now, Ultimate Team probably this year in 2018, will do about 800 million in sales, and FIFA the game probably will do $1 billion. So still more than half comes from game sales. And they would only give up the $1 billion of game sales if they thought that Ultimate Team would be 1.8 billion. That's hard to pull off. Could it happen? Sure it could. But that would make it the most successful free-to-play game of all time. I mean, I think League of Legends maybe does 1.2 or 1.5 billion. Clash of Clans Mobile probably got to around that level. So it's really hard if you're already making $1 billion on Call of Duty or on FIFA to just switch to free-to-play mode. I'll make a prediction that in the next few years, and I'd say this is a 2020 event at the earliest, StarCraft comes out, StarCraft 3, free-to-play only. See, I'll bet that. I think that StarCraft 2 is going free-to-play this year, and the reason that they're doing it is they're trying to build an audience so that when they launch StarCraft 3, they have 100 million people who love StarCraft 2. Launch that free-to-play, make it into a League of Legends killer, create the StarCraft League just like they did the Overwatch League, and you're going to have hundreds of millions of people playing it because it's free, and make it into an esports battle mode that makes sense. And I think that Blizzard, which normally only sells about 400 million or so, 500 million of StarCraft when it comes out, they could be doing 500 million a year for 5 years if they make it a free-to-play game, possibly $1 billion, possibly bigger. But I think that's the plan. So you guys remember this. Those of you guys who audit everything I say, mark this episode because I think StarCraft's going to be the one. But I think you're going to get a morph from selling games only to some games are sold, some games are free to play, and I think it'll take more than 2 years, 10 years, 15 years before we go all free to play all the time. And yes, Amazon and Apple are entering the business. Amazon and Apple are looking to be the virtual console. You're not going to need a full-blown console. If you have an Alexa-enabled device, you can play the game there. You can play it in the cloud if it's a streaming game, much like PlayStation Now works, or you can play it with a client download where all the processing happens in the cloud. And that's kind of true, like with Rainbow Six plays that way. So I think you're going to get Amazon and Apple saying download the game to your phone, and there's going to be a graphics card in your Amazon Echo Show, and it'll play on your TV, and we'll do all the processing in the cloud. That's happening, but 2 years is tight, 3-4 years for sure.
I think it just depends on the kind of game. I think if you want a Skyrim level experience, that's not going to happen free to play. If you are, I mean, and look, League of Legends came along and rewrote the rulebook on free to play. Fortnite has come in, shat on the rulebook, ripped it up, tossed it out the window, and then set fire to it as it fell to its death. Because Fortnite, they're making money hand over fist on emotes, on character customization, all based on a free-to-play game. Because if you remember, you know, yes, there is a Founders version that is $60, but what people are playing mostly is Battle Royale, which is a free version of Fortnite. So that experience, multiplayer, is free, and that's, I think you'll see more companies shifting towards that. I think you will see a version from EA for Battlefield, you will see a version from Activision for Call of Duty, and that's just the way that particular multiplayer experience is going to go. And it might tap into even FIFA down the line, where there will be ad breaks and various other things, or you will start with a base team and you have to sign Messi or Mohamed Salah. Big ups to you, Sunshine. Man City were coming for you in the quarterfinals. But if you want a Fallout experience, if you want a Skyrim, if you want a Mario, or LA Noire, or Red Dead, you're still going to have to pay for that. And that I don't have a problem with, because I equate it to fast food gaming or fine dining gaming. And on one side, you've got the $60 fine dining experience that is 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 hours of top-notch gameplay, VO, cinematics, immersiveness, character customization. That is absolutely sumptuous, and we can just gorge on for months on end. And then you have the fast food, which is not meant as an insult, because it's incredibly tasty, it's incredibly addictive, but in the end of the day, it doesn't really do much for you. Doesn't give you the buzz perhaps that you get from that, but it's more of a totally different buzz, and that will be the free-to-play model moving forward. It's the Facebook Games Room version. It is the light, fluffy, drop in, drop out, quick multiplayer, not the huge campaigns.
So the question I get really often lately is, can there be a Call of Duty Battle Royale mode, 100 player, and the engine doesn't allow it, but let's pretend it did. And if they were to do that, would they do it only if you buy Call of Duty, or would they have that as a separate free-to-play game? And that's the open question. Because, I mean, if you just had Battle Royale mode and you made it free, I think you would have 30, 40, 50 million players play that who never bought Call of Duty.
I guarantee you they're working on it.
And you'd introduce that but free-to-play. So you'd introduce 30 or 40 or 50 million people to Call of Duty Battle Royale, and then they'd say, oh gosh, I gotta go get a console, I want to play the full-blown game as well. I think that's good. I don't know if Activision has the balls to pull that off. They might not want to give it away.
I think we will see a free version, a free multiplayer version, where you have to, you can, like I said, loot boxes. We know Activision and EA love their loot boxes, and this is the way they will obviously monetize that. If you want the full experience, the Call of Duty experience, I think people will still pay for that, but they make it an easy buy-in through microtransactions to upgrade, to unlock the proper game, or whatever you want to position it. But that is the way forward. I think that, especially in Battlefront, if Battlefront is to survive as a franchise, they can't do that box anymore. The next Battlefront game has to go free to play, just like the mobile games that EA are doing in the Star Wars franchise, and basically give it, just loot box the shit out of it. That's the support structure for these games moving forward.
I don't think EA's got the contractual ability to go free to play.
Well, it doesn't look like they're going to have Star Wars for much longer anyway, because
they've got
Disney are not very happy with that.
Through 2024.
We'll see. We'll see.
That deal can't get terminated unless EA breaches, and they haven't breached yet. Anyway, we'll see. Thank you for joining us on this week's Pachter Factor. We hope you watch us on SIFTD.net and you're a Patreon patron. If not, then watching on YouTube, you must follow SIFTD at SIFTD on Twitter. You must follow. Is it SIFTD Games? All one word. On SIFTGAMES at SIFTD Games, or at Michael Pachter, or at Annoyed Gamer. Actually, follow us all, because we all can use the ego boost from having more followers. And we appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week.